Good afternoon, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning Five here. Following Ohio State's domination over Indiana, 56-14. Buckeyes looked great out there. I am Dave Biddle. Welcome into What We Learned Live. We will hear from the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic, here in a few minutes to talk about the day of recruiting for Ohio State. We will hear from Patrick Murphy and Steve Hellwagon live from the Horseshoe following postgame interviews. I will take your questions later. If you have questions, please hold off for now so I make sure that I see them. Let's get into some of the things that we learned. Great performance from Ohio State. Obviously, though, I think we have to start with the elephant in the room. That didn't look good for Miyan. And, it's a concern. It's a big concern. Now, do I still think they can beat Michigan if they have Dallin Hayden? Let's say it was just Dallin Hayden. Yeah, I think they can. But, man, they need at least, I think, Travion Henderson, and Dallin Hayden for me to feel good. And hopefully it's not as serious as it looks with Miyan. So that's the first thing. Miyan was having a great day. 147 yards before you could blink. Leading the Big Ten in average yards per carry this year coming into the game at 6.2, and then averaged 9.8 yards per carry, almost 10 yards per carry today. So too bad to see that, but let's get some other things we learned. So DeJuan Jones sat out this game with an injury. I shouldn't say I don't know for sure if it was an injury. Could have been an illness. Josh Fryer started at right tackle. I thought played well. And I thought two things here. I think if they didn't wrap it up, I think that it's really close. C.J. Stroud with the Heisman and Marvin Harrison Jr. with the Bolitnikoff. And you guys know how I feel about Tommy Eichenberg and the Buckeyes. Maybe throw him in there as well. I shouldn't say locked up. I mean, obviously C.J. Stroud needs to beat Michigan and play well in that game. And Hendon Hooker is right there, but I feel like C.J. has the edge on him, especially now we learned C.J. another just fantastic game. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now with a ridiculous touchdown to interception ratio of 34-4, 34 touchdowns, 4 interceptions for C.J. Stroud on the season. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is an absolute freak. 7 catches, 135 yards, a touchdown. Now has 60 receptions, 969 yards, and 11 touchdowns on the year. Marvin Harrison Jr. He better win the Bolitnikoff. So obviously a downer. If it wasn't for Miyan's injury, we would just all be elated right now. And I think we're all still mostly elated, but that's a tough one. So I'm still curious about the defensive line rotation. It didn't matter today. They got the job done, but Ty Hamilton getting the start. Mike Hall played, and so did Tyleik Williams. I do think Mike Hall must still be on a pitch count. He had that, I don't know if it was a pec or whatever it was, something upper body, shoulder area, maybe a little lower that he suffered earlier in the season. And I think that must be what it is he's still on a pitch count. And they're just making sure he's ready to go here in 2 weeks. 2 weeks exactly. 2 weeks exactly. So, we learned Mike Hall, in my opinion, is still on a pitch count. It has to be. That has to be it. I mean, because now Teron Vincent, I don't have a problem at all with him starting. He's playing great. But and Ty Hamilton didn't play bad today. Mike Hall, if healthy, should be starting. And Tyleik Williams, I think, should be playing more as well. Travion Henderson, I think a lot of people have wondered, is this load management? Is he actually, he's like pretty much healthy but could play? I mean, yeah, if it was the Michigan game, I think there's no doubt he could have played today. But he is legit dealing with a foot injury. If you've listened to our podcast, I've said that multiple times. This is not like it's just precautionary and he has like some like minor little like sprained ankle or something, or even something like more minor than that. He's either dealing with what I've told, either a turf toe or plantar fasciitis, which both linger and both are painful. So they've now given him 2 weeks off. It's not just load management, which that term to me means like you're not really hurt, but we just don't want to we don't want to get you hurt, no, Travion actually is dealing with a legit foot injury. He's been seen in and around the WAC, wearing a walking boot, and we've been told that's precautionary. I think he's going to be fine. They thought they'd be fine today with Miyan and Dallin, and they were, even though Miyan got hurt. Dallin looked good too. Dallin Hayden. So, and Xavier Johnson, tip your cap to Xavier Johnson. How about that? I mean, he continues to step up, and he's not a walk-on any longer. Like we like to say, like walk-on Xavier Johnson. He actually has been bumped up to scholarship. I don't know why they didn't make a bigger deal of that, but they did not. And Xavier Johnson, fifth-year senior, who can come back next year technically because he redshirted his first year, and then 2020 didn't count. He could come back as a 6-year senior next year, and why not? And he's not like out of position playing running back. He was a running back in high school. Like he did a little bit of everything in high school, but he had played running back earlier in his career at Ohio State. He's done whatever they needed. He had 1 year he played corner because they were thin at corner. This year he's been playing wide receiver, and even today played wide receiver, had a couple nice catches. Love what I'm seeing out of Xavier Johnson. Tough as nails, helps out on special teams. Always was making plays when we're at practice these last 4 years, and now as a 5th-year senior, it's all paying off for him. You got to love that. Let's get to the defense. I mean, love what Jim Knowles is doing. I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, Indiana is limited, but still, Indiana starts the game out with 3 straight 3-and-outs. 3 straight 3-and-outs with Jim Knowles getting after them. I think Ronnie Hickman's playing great football. I think Lathan Ransom's playing great football. Ronnie Hickman had 2 great plays in the first half. 2 great plays. Tackle for loss where he blew up the blocker and dropped the guy for a tackle for loss. I mean, textbook. And then textbook coverage. So, Ronnie Hickman has really taken that adjuster role and has, just completely run with it. Cade Stover, big day for Cade Stover again. By the way, he needs 1 more catch for 30. This still cracks me up every year we go into the season saying, is this going to be the year Ohio State tight end has 30 receptions in a season? We all thought last year with Jeremy Rucker he'd get it. He ended up having 26. Cade Stover now is 29. 29 catches on the year. Today, 2 touchdowns. Now 5 touchdowns on the season. Cade Stover is a better receiver than he is a blocker. He did block better today, but whoever thought would say that? I thought he'd be a block first tight end, shockingly, at Ohio State, right? And that he'd, be maybe okay in the passing game as a receiver. No, he is a beast. He seriously looks like Gronk after he catches the ball. He really does. I mean, have fun. We say have fun tackling Miyan, like have fun tackling Cade Stover, right? And then that he's athletic. We've seen it now, the time that he did the flip a few weeks ago for the touchdown today, putting the hand down, staying, not letting his knees hit, reaching out for the touchdown. 2 touchdowns for Cade Stover. Never saw that coming this year. I'd love to say that I did. Yeah, we learned Julian Fleming had a big drop that killed a drive, but I still overall love what I'm seeing out of Julian Fleming this year. Like, if Jackson Smith and Jigba would be healthy, like Julian Fleming would be the number 4 receiver on this team. Even with JSN out, he's the number 3 receiver. So, yeah, he had a bad drop today, and he had a drop last week. Last week I kind of throw out the window because of the conditions, but yeah, Julian Fleming needs to catch the ball away from his body. Can't let it get to your chest. He knows that. Brian Hartline, I'm sure, things happen when you're running at full speed. Julian Fleming runs faster than most humans, and then CJ Stroud's firing the ball into you, and you got a guy trying to take your head off in coverage. Easier said than done to get your hand, but like you got to get your hands out there and not let it get on your chest where it's going to bounce off. But overall, I think Julian Fleming is playing very good football this year. Very good football. All right, so we learned Denzel Burke didn't play. Apparently he was in uniform and warming up. It didn't go through 11-on-11 drills during warm-up, so he wasn't on the availability report. I don't know what's going on there. Probably precautionary because now all of a sudden they have Cam Brown back. That was great to see. Not that he played a perfect game, but overall he played well, and great to see Cam Brown. He made some good plays. Had a bad play, but overall I thought played well. And he hates Michigan, and he brings a physicality, and he's athletic. Love having Cam Brown back. And then Jordan Hancock, great to see him healthy and out there playing again. Not that he played like an A+ game, but still played well. J.K. Johnson's out there. I don't remember. I don't remember seeing Jair Brown out there, but Denzel Burke. I was asking some of my colleagues, like, what's going on with Denzel Burke? And apparently he was dressed, but did not play that I saw. But can't say enough nice things about Jim Knowles and this defense. I mean, you go from the 59th total defense in the country to now one of the top 5 total defenses in the country with basically the same guys. Yeah, a year older, but it just goes to show how important coaching is. I mean, it's just both things are paramount, or both things are just, uber important when you're talking about recruiting and coaching. Both things you cannot, you can't have an elite program without one or the other. I will say this though, if I had to have a B+ roster, an A+ coaching staff opposed to an A+ roster and a B+ coaching staff, I think I'd take the A+ coaching staff. I think they'd take that B+ roster and beat you because they would be able to outsmart you, out scheme you. I'm talking overall, the overall coaching staff. So both are important, but I think coaching doesn't get enough. Everybody knows stars matter. Do people know coaching matters? I think people do. By the way, I love Gus Johnson's nickname. It's very simple for Marvin Harrison. Marvelous. We learned that. Gus Johnson keeps ripping them. The world famous Ohio State Buckeyes. You had barbecue back there. You didn't invite me. Marvelous. I love it. What do you do with J.K. Dobbins, all that good stuff. So hopefully Miyan did give the thumbs up and all that on the way out in the OH, but then he's back on crutches. So obviously that looks like it's serious. Let's hope it's not. Looked like his right foot was in a boot and he was on crutches. Let's hope it's precautionary. Doesn't play against Maryland, is somehow able to play against Michigan, but doesn't look good, does it? But if they have Travion Henderson and Dallin Hayden, I'm still confident in the Buckeyes. 2 weeks from now, exactly. 2 weeks from now, exactly. I cannot wait. Watching Michigan right now against Nebraska. It looks like a sleet in Ann Arbor. Plenty of good seats still available. How about Cam Bab? I didn't bury the lead. I'm just going kind of chronologically here. How about Cam Bab? I mean, are you guys still? Everybody clear the tears from their sockets at this point. I mean, that was so cool, wasn't it? That was so cool to see Cam Bab. Not only his first touchdown, his first catch period as a Buckeye, as a fifth-year senior. 4 ACL injuries, 4 ACL surgeries, 2 on each knee. Great kid. I mean, to be named captain by your teammates when you've never even caught a ball, you never played. I mean, he's played, but like on special teams, never caught a ball coming into the year. For you to be a teammate or you be named captain at Ohio State shows you what a young man he is and how much respect he has. And was that not the coolest thing? Like I just, it's just, God, I'm getting a little choked up just thinking about it. Like, have you ever seen, anything like that where a guy gets over there and like everybody on the sideline is just like beyond elated? It looked like Cam Bab just won like a gold medal at the Olympics is how everybody was. And it did feel like that. Like that was so cool. That was so cool. Overall, what a great day. I mean, it was like, except for the Miyan injury, like, right? I mean, which is huge. What a great day. Everything else, great day. I love what I'm seeing out of this defense. Again, Tommy Eichenberg better win the Butkus Award or at least be a finalist. And Cam Bab, could not be more happy for Cam Bab. This defense gets after you, man. 5 sacks at last count. I had to get ready for the show. I don't think they had one late, but 5 sacks, 2 by Jack Sawyer. Absolutely love it. We're going to hear from Bill Kurelic very shortly. I mean, that's a big day for recruiting. Somewhat for the 2023 class, with Arian Carter having his official visit today, but mostly, this is mostly a day for like 2024 and even 2025 kids. So we'll hear from Bill Kurelic somewhat soon. Let me see if I've heard from Bill yet. Again, a great day. A great day from here. Bill says he doesn't have here. Let me send this to Bill. Give me just a second, my friends. I am going to send the link to Bill Kurelic right now. So, yeah, let's hope we get some good news. We'll talk to Patrick Murphy and Steve Hellwag and get, the latest from the press conference afterwards. I'm guessing Brian Day either won't say anything. Probably it's not good news, but we'll find out. All right. So I really think CJ Stroud, we'll see. I mean, Hendon Hooker had a good game today, but as long as Ohio State, I don't think this is actually a big if. I'm very confident in 2 weeks from now. As long as Ohio State beats Michigan and Stroud plays well in that game, Stroud's got the Heisman, in my opinion, after what we saw today. Patrick Murphy saying he's going to skip the post-game press conference. No, I don't think he really is being serious about that. But so we're going to hear from Bill Kurelic soon. He now finally has the link. So I think CJ Stroud won the Heisman. I really do. I could be wrong. As long as he has a good game 2 weeks from now and the Buckeyes beat Michigan, I think you've seen that 5 touchdowns today. And how about the way he's like been a willing runner? Even sometimes it doesn't even work out. Today he had one where he lowered his shoulder. He kind of those are ones I even don't want to see, like where he lowers his throwing shoulder, and doesn't even get the first down. Like I want it where it's like clear 10 yards, you can get out of bounds or slide. That's what I've been talking about. Like Stroud's taking this to heart, hasn't he? Like people like daring him to run. He's like, all right, I'll show you. And then they had some called quarterback runs, which just this baffles my mind, actually. They had some called quarterback runs, and Indiana was ready for them. Like I've always been saying, like if you did like a called quarterback run with a fake, like no one's going to respect Stroud running it. I guess what happened last week, they actually had to prepare for it. So I guess that's a good thing. I mean, now like defenses have to prepare for that triple threat. You know, we keep saying you can't have an RPO with just a double threat where it's just either you're going to hand it off or you're going to throw it. You have to have that threat of the quarterback keeping the ball, at least to keep him honest. And Ohio State has not had that. Now they do. I'm surprised Indiana respected it as much as they did, but like there was like at least 2 or 3 times where like CJ got stuffed on called quarterback runs, and I'm like, damn. Okay, well, at least like teams are having to like prepare for it. When Ohio State was running the ball downhill, they were very, very, very effective. Very effective. Again, let's hope that Miyan is okay. Again, I'd be shocked if he is. So we're going to hear from Bill Kurelic here in a moment. Arian Carter with his official visit. So some of the 2024 kids that are on unofficial visits today. Garrett Stover, who is Cade's cousin. Garrett Stover out of Big Walnut, linebacker, safety, probably would be a linebacker at Ohio State, tight end. Jaden Riddell or Reddle, I think it's Riddell. Offensive lineman Jake Wheelock. Those are 3 of the bigger kids from the 2024 class. We'll hear from Bill for 2025. There are a lot of 2025 kids there too, guys. They're either just finished up their sophomore season or are about to. And then again, you know, this 2023 class for Ohio State's interesting. 21 commits, number 5 overall class in the country. 3rd best player ranking, though, which I always love to look at. So the 3rd best average player ranking for this 2023 class. And if they can finish strong, I feel like Ohio State's going to finish with a top 4 class. Only 1 linebacker in the class so far, my friends, Arvell Reese from Glenville. So we'll see if they can get Arian Carter. We'll get Bill's thoughts on this. The issue that I see is Steve Wiltfong has crystal balled Arian Carter to Alabama. So not good there. Now, he only put a 6 confidence level on it, but still not good that there's been a thong bomb for Bama to land Arian Carter. Now, maybe the Buckeyes will be able to get him to flip. Everything that they're doing on defense is helping. And right on cue, Bill Kurelic is in the house. The dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you.
Doing okay. Good to see you, Dave. And we'll got more to talk about today, I'm sure.
So let's start with Arian Carter. Steve Wiltfong has a crystal ball in for Alabama, as you know, 6 confident level, like so not extremely confident, but official visit for Arian Carter. I know you don't, it's still going on, but what are you hearing, and what's your confidence level that maybe the Buckeyes can slip past Bama and land him?
Well, I do think that Alabama is the leader right now. Interestingly, though, he is still committed to Memphis at this point, but I don't think anybody really thinks that he, in the end, is going to sign with Memphis. He's making official visits to Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, Tennessee, and the odds on of him sticking with Memphis aren't real high right now. I do think Alabama is the leader, but Ohio State gets their chance this weekend. They'll see if they can impress him enough to sway him to Ohio State. And the way Ohio State's defense is playing, as you know, Dave, they've got a good product to sell right now, no question.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I was just saying that. Like, I'm glad you brought that up because Ryan Day talked about this too. It's like it was easy to say in the offseason. Not easy. I mean, it was easy to say it, but like maybe it wasn't easily received if you say, "Oh, we're going to be really good on defense." Like recruits are like, "You've been terrible the last 2 years." Like, I need to see it. Now they've seen it for 10 weeks. Now they've seen it, and it's not just a good defense; it's a fun defense. You would think if you're a defensive player, this is a fun defense. They're going to attack. They're going to have lots of sacks, tackles for loss, turnovers. They're going to come from all angles. So, absolutely love it. Before we move on to some of the other kids, so this 2023 class.
Dave, go ahead. I have to. You got me thinking about something to mention too, as you talked about that. Lathan Ransom today. The fun defense you mentioned. He's blitzing. He's getting sacks. He's covering in the secondary, and Ohio State is trying very hard to get Caleb Downs, who I think is the best high school football player in the country. Caleb Downs back to Ohio State for that Michigan game. He's committed to Alabama right now, but there is a chance he comes back to Ohio State for the Michigan game. Now, if I'm Ohio State, and I'm sure they're thinking this way, you're going to want to show Caleb Downs just what Lathan Ransom did today, playing safety for the Buckeyes. And, Caleb, you can be this guy here at Ohio State. You can blitz. You could play in coverage. You can do everything that you could possibly want to see out of a safety. So, to me, that was an advertisement to get perhaps Caleb Downs even more encouragement to come back to Ohio State to visit and maybe change his commitment from Alabama to Ohio State.
Anybody else from 2023 I should mention before we move on to 2024? Obviously, Arian Carter on his official visit. That's the big one. Anybody else from 2023 that we should hit on?
Yeah, the big news today was that Damon Wilson, the 5-star defensive end from Florida, who basically, he hasn't announced it's down to Ohio State or Georgia, but I've said since he made his official visit to Ohio State back the first weekend of September, I've said that it's going to be Ohio State or Georgia. He did go to the Georgia-Tennessee game, and that helped Georgia, no question. Well, the big news is that he is going to be back in the horseshoe one more time at least for that Ohio State-Michigan game. So getting him back on campus, that is absolutely huge. If we can see Caleb Downs standing right next to him on the sideline for that game, so much the better.
No doubt about it. All right, 2024. So a couple guys I jotted down using your posts and stories on Bucknuts as a cheat code. So linebacker safety Garrett Stover was in the house today on an unofficial. These are 2024 kids. Garrett Stover being Cade's cousin. Tight end Jaden Riddell, and offensive lineman Jake Wheelock. Talk about those three and some other 2024 kids that the listeners need to know about.
Yeah, I happened to go last night to see Stover play what ended up being his final high school game of this season, and Garrett was great. His team was a little bit outmatched. They played Massillon, who came into that playoff game last night as the number 1 seed, but Massillon won 42-21. But it wasn't because of Garrett Stover. He played really well, and he had to kind of do it all. He was playing linebacker. He was playing safety. He was playing as kind of a slot wideout receiver. He was running the ball in reverses. It's tough in a high school game of that magnitude, of that caliber, players to play as many plays as he did last night, and he was very good. I really like Ohio State's chances with Garrett Stover, and as he told me last night, he's probably going to decide sometime in the coming weeks to coming months. He wants to decide, if at all possible, and I think it will likely happen before the end of this year. In other words, by the end of December. He was one that Ohio State welcomes back in this weekend. And you mentioned the others. Jake Wheelock from your neck of the woods, Dave, from Dayton Stebbins High School. He's kind of an underrated guy. I like him a lot, actually. It doesn't have an Ohio State offer yet, but I think he's pretty solid prospect. And a few that you didn't mention, Chris Henry. You probably remember that name from your Bengals, Dave. But Chris Henry is a 2026 wide receiver from Cincinnati West Claremont. That 2026 guy, he's already got an offer from Ohio State. Certainly he is someone we want to mention. And Ethan Barber from Alpharetta, Georgia, is a 2025 tight end. And then Imarian Stewart is a wide receiver athlete from Bolingbrook, Illinois, class of 2024. Those are some other guys certainly worth mentioning.
All right. Question from Josh on Facebook for the Dean. Dean, is there room for Justin Haynes and Downs in this class?
If they could get them, absolutely yes. You don't turn those guys down. As I said, Caleb Downs, and there was no pun intended there when I said you don't turn those guys down. But with Caleb Downs, he's as good a player. I really like him as the best athlete player in the country. So he's going to get in if he wants to flip, no question. Justice Haynes, he is also an Alabama commitment, and if he wanted to flip, he too would get in. But with Haynes, don't really see that happening. I think if he were to flip, it would more likely be to Georgia from Alabama. But in the case of Downs, if he's to flip, I think it would be more likely Ohio State if he flipped rather than for him to go to Georgia. And by the way, Haynes and Downs are both from the state of Georgia.
A lot of people want to know about running backs. This is from Buckeye 80 on YouTube, Bill. What other running backs are the Buckeyes in on for the 2023 class?
They're really not right now. Yeah, they're really not. They're looking at the 2024 running backs right now. Now, if Haynes wanted to flip, yeah, sure, they'd love that. But and you know this, Dave, when you look at the roster for next year, they've got 5 running backs, scholarship running backs that will be back. You've got Miyan Williams and Travion Henderson. You've got Evan Pryor coming back. You've got Dalen Hayden. And then the 5th one actually is Mark Fletcher from the class of 2023 is committed. So that's 5 running backs. And the usual number is 5 or 6. So they're really more focused on the 2024 running backs, unless you could get, a real difference maker like a Haynes to flip, for instance.
Any worries about Mark Fletcher? There's been talk, he is on a, unofficial visit today. Any worries that he might flip?
That's a good guy to mention, Dave. I don't want to say my flip meter is real high with him right now. He was supposed to go to the Florida game today. I haven't confirmed if he made it or not. We hear all the time these guys are supposed to go other places. Noah Rogers was supposed to go to a North Carolina State game, and he did not end up making it. Carnell Tate was supposed to go see Tennessee, and that didn't happen. So I always, want to actually confirm that they are at that game. So far, I don't know for sure that Fletcher is at the Florida game today, just that he was supposed to go. And again, I like the chances of him staying with Ohio State. But again, you recruit great players, and they're going to get recruited all the way through by other schools too.
So we look at this 2023 class. Obviously, signing day is next month. I don't even call it early signing day anymore. Basically, everybody signs early, and then if the what we used to know as signing day is there's 2 or 3 guys maybe, if that. So they've got 21 commits. They're ranked 5th overall in the 24/7 Sports Composite. How many do you think that they land with in this class? If you had to bet on it, where do you think they're going to end up ranked? 4th, 5th, 3rd? Where do you think they're going to end up?
I think they'll end up in the top 5, and they could press for the top class if they get the guys that they still have a chance. If you get Mateo Uyunglele for one, if you get Damon Wilson, would be another. Keon Keeley. Those are all 5-star guys. If they get a couple of those guys, and it's not out of the question by any means, if they were to flip Caleb Downs, another one, Ryan Carter is another one. So those guys are difference makers as far as the class goes. In Carter's case, Alabama is really pushing hard to get him. We talked about him. So it'll be a top 5 class. It could push for number 1, depending on what happens. As far as how many, as you mentioned, there's 21 in the class right now, and I think it's going to end up, my guess would be 23, maybe 24. But if they get the right guys, they'll go to 25, no question.
All right, before I let you go, anything else you want? Any parting thoughts, either about the game today, recruiting, anything you want to say before we get you out of here, Mr. Bill Kurlick?
I'll say a positive and a potential negative. I certainly liked, and I'm sure you did, the way Ohio State looked up front on offense today. Much better. Blocking was much better. Josh Fryer, I watched him a lot. I thought he did a nice job, which bodes well for the future because they're going to need him next season for sure. So I thought Josh Fryer played well. I thought the running game was better, and that's going to be important here down the stretch. On the negative side, I don't know, Dave. Have they said exactly the extent of Miyan Williams' injury yet? I don't think they have.
I don't think they have, and I'm not at the press conference. Obviously, we're going to hear from Patrick and Steve afterwards. I doubt they're going to say anything, and I don't know. It didn't look good. For him, he couldn't put any weight on it, and then once he got to the sideline, he had to get carted to the locker room, and then came back out, crutches, walking boot. I don't know what to make of the thumbs up and OH. It kind of makes it think man, he was just saying, I'll be all right. Yeah, maybe I'm out for the – I don't know. That's a concern because he's been their best running back this year.
Oh, I agree. He's been the guy. And, that worries me as far as the Buckeyes concerned. If he's not available for Michigan, that would worry me. And as you know, Dave, if hopefully nothing is broken, but even if it's a high ankle sprain, those usually are 3 to 4 week deals. So that would be a concern. That's the biggest concern I have out of today for sure.
No doubt about it. Well, one concern that I don't have is working with Bill Kurelic. He is the best in the business. He is the dean of Ohio State football recruiting. He is Bill Kurelic. Thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate you jumping on postgame podcast. Thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, my friend.
Always good to join you, Dave. Have a good weekend yourself, my man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, there he is, Bill Kurelic, live from the palatial Kurelic estate, the Olentangy School District. We don't need to get more specific than that. So Ben on YouTube is staying optimistic. He says, I bet Miyan will be back for that school up north. I kind of get that feeling too, Ben, but, is it going to be 60%? I would actually take that. Strap it up, get a shot, whatever. I mean, just get through that Michigan game. The rest for the Big Ten championship game against whoever wins the JV, and then wait till the playoffs. Rightful One on YouTube. I think even if Miyan is out for that team up north, we will be fine. Ryan Day will be dialing it up with X-Man and whoever we got. Yeah, Dallin. I agree. I don't want to diminish this because you guys know how much I love Miyan, and he just brings a physicality to this running game that they don't have without him. That being said, I think that not easily, but I don't think that'd be the difference in not beating Michigan. That might be the difference in not beating Michigan by 17, but I don't think it's going to be the difference of beating Michigan or not. And again, that's not a knock on Miyan because I love Miyan maybe more than anybody except for Miyan's mom. I'm a huge Miyan Williams fan. I'm just saying I'm confident in what's going to happen in 2 weeks with Michigan coming here, with it being at the Horseshoe, revenge factor. And I think Ohio State's got the better team. I mean, frankly, Indiana looked terrible today, right? Who was Michigan tied with at halftime? Indiana. And I don't like the transitive property. I think it's stupid, actually. It's the facts prove it out. The transitive property doesn't really work in football. It really is almost meaningless. Yet some people jump on it and want to talk about common opponents. So if we want to do that, we can do that. So Michigan was tied. I'm pointing at my TV because I'm watching Michigan-Nebraska right now. Michigan with a commanding 7-0 lead over Nebraska. Michigan was tied at halftime against Indiana. I think it was tied even going into the fourth quarter. Okay? Ohio State blows that Indiana team out of the water. So if we want to talk about transitive property and common opponents, all that, we can do that. It's stupid, but we can do that for sure. I know after the Penn State game, it was like, oh, Michigan blew out Penn State and Ohio State does. Okay. What about every other common opponent? Iowa, Michigan they beat them by 13. Ohio State beat them by 44. Again today, 56-14. Indiana. Michigan's tied with them at halftime. Michigan was trailing at halftime against Rutgers, was leading Michigan State by 6 at halftime. And again, they took care of business in all of those games. Michigan's a very good team. I'm not saying they're not very good, but that great song from Top Gun Maverick, I ain't worried about it, okay? Keeping dreams alive. Got a question here from Brutus B. Buckeye on YouTube. Do you think this forces Ohio State to play Henderson next week? I think he was probably going to play anyway. I think he probably could have played today if they actually needed him to. That's my guess. I'm not going to say the whole name here. Kudos. This seems like something from The Simpsons with your username there. Hugh. We'll just go with Hugh on YouTube. Chip T is a physical back. Needs carries next week and possibly against UM. I agree. He's banged up though, and now it's like you don't want to all of a sudden be breaking that glass against Michigan. He's got one carry all year. Chip train him, and I liked his film in high school. I thought he ran the ball well at Arizona State, so I like him. But hopefully they can get him some game reps next week. Oh my gosh, I thought I put this person in a. I just put you in a timeout. Now I'm going to block this user. If we have somebody from a 69XXX site chiming in. And Patrick Murphy's not even here yet. Sorry. Now Patrick's not going to show up now that I said that. I'm kidding. I was just thinking this. We have Buckeyes fan up north saying Cam Martinez should return punts based on his high school film. I wrote the exact same thing in my notes. Cam Martinez should return punts. Not over Emeka, but if you're going to use a backup punt returner, how about use Cam Martinez and not Reese Stocksdale? I feel bad for Reese Stocksdale. Poor kid. Walk on, gets in there and muffs 2 punts, including one that they lose, that they cash in for a touchdown. So half of Indiana's points are because of a redshirt freshman walk-on wide receiver who they put back there to return punts as the backup punt returner. But I agree. Why is Cam Martinez not back there? And it's not like, oh, well, he did it in high school, but he's never practices. He practices as the punt returner. When we're out there at practice, the few times that we are, Cam Martinez works as one of the backup punt returners. They just decided, since Cam Martinez gets to play on defense, my guess is they decided to give Reese Stocksdale a little love there. And I'm guessing it was a fluke. He must have good hands in practice. So they wouldn't have done that. So just when we think they're getting healthy at corner, they get Jordan Hancock back. So now Denzel Burke didn't play today. I wonder what's up with that. It's another thing I want to ask Patrick and Steve. Obviously, the big thing everybody wants to know about is what's going on with Miyan. I doubt we're going to know too much about that. Brad Wallace on YouTube. Dave, thoughts on CJ today? I loved it. I loved his willingness in the running game. Even sometimes it didn't work, and I don't even want to see him get hit. I don't need him lowering his right shoulder. But he did that, and I like he's showing a little dog. I like that. And I thought he threw the ball very well. I mean, his stats are misleading. Keep in mind, Julian Fleming dropped what would have been like a 40-yard pass. There were a couple other drops in there as well. I thought CJ, I keep saying this, if he plays even reasonably well, he doesn't have to set the world on fire. If he plays well against Michigan and they win, he's got the Heisman. I think he'll win it over Hendon Hooker. Feels like a two-man race right now. Drew, if Cam Bab is healthy enough to get out there and score, isn't he healthy enough to play more often? Well, Drew, I think Drew on YouTube. Here's the thing. This is my guess. Is he's probably barely healthy enough to play. Could he play 30 snaps in a game? I don't know. Probably not. We're talking about a guy. I don't know how much cartilage he even has left in any of his knees. 4 ACL surgeries, 2 on each knee. He's also had another injury this year that finally he was able to come back from. That was just great. So no, I don't think he could play more. They would play him more. That was just great to see, wasn't it? That was fantastic. I'm just getting a smile just thinking about it again. Jeff B on YouTube. Seems like none of Ohio State's punt returners want to catch the ball. Yeah, they've got to get that cleaned up. They should be more. They've got too much talent to not be more explosive. I think Parker Fleming's doing some good things as special teams coach, and some things I'm like, how are they not crisper, cleaner in this area? This is Ohio State. Ryan Day talks about it himself. We're not trying to be 15th best in America in this category. We're not trying to be 18th best in America. We're trying to be best in America, period, in this and this, everything across the board. What you're talking about, this is when he was talking about coming into the season, everybody kind of, really? Top 10 defense? That was the expectation for Ryan Day, top 10 defense. Why not? And look at him now, top 5 defense. Bilal saying Hendon Hooker's 35 years old. He ain't getting no Heisman. Well, I mean, Chris Winkie was first of all, Hendon Hooker's I think 25. Chris Winkie was 28, 29. So it won't matter. You gotta take care of business. That's what I'm telling you. If it comes, he's put up the stats. I have no doubt he will next week at Maryland against a bad defense. Maryland's got a good offense, but a bad defense. And then if he has, again, a decent game against Michigan and Ohio State wins, they've already got his name on that trophy. He just has to go to New York and pick it up. Paraphrasing the great Maurice Clarett talking about the Ohio Mr. Football trophy entering his senior year of high school. He said, they already have my name on that Mr. Football trophy. I just have to go down to Columbus and pick it up. By the way, Mr. Football Award winner that year, Maurice Clarett. So, yeah. All right, we're still going to hear from Patrick Murphy and Steve Hellwagon live from Ohio Stadium. Let me see how close these boys are. I'm very curious if anything was said about Miyan. I'm guessing nothing was said about Miyan. Didn't look good, though, did it? Did not look good. Rightful one saying Maryland's offensive line is looking bad against Penn State. I think we're going to be all over Tunga Vailoa. Yeah, and he's like banged up too. I haven't seen any of that game yet, but he was coming off a knee injury. I know they were playing in bad weather last week, just like Ohio State was. Maryland was up at Wisconsin. It wasn't as bad as it was in Evanston, but it was still bad in Madison. And Maryland couldn't do anything. Tunga Vailoa threw for under 100 yards in that game. So I wonder if his knee's still a little banged up. And I'm not worried about Maryland. I mean, people talk about that all year as like maybe a trap game because he came before Michigan and they have an explosive offense. But I mean, we talked about the importance of coaching earlier, right? Mike Locksley, not a good head coach. Good recruiter, can do some things but not a good head coach. And Ryan Day does not like him. There's certain guys Ryan Day I don't think is fond of. Tom Allen being one of them. We certainly know Jim Harbaugh. So like you finish the schedule out with Tom Allen, Mike Locksley, and Jim Harbaugh, and none of them are on Ryan Day's Christmas card list, especially the last two. Alejo de Costa on YouTube. Do I think Dallin and Xavier can carry the running game? I don't believe in Trey, even if he's healthy, to be honest. Wow. I mean, I believe in Trey still. I know what I saw last year, and he ran hard this year. I mean, he's been banged up. Yeah, as long as the receivers stay healthy, they need a serviceable running game. They can definitely take care of business with Dallin Hayden and Xavier Johnson. But I do think they need Travion Henderson too, though. I think they need all three of them. But yeah, okay, to answer your question, they just had those two, but they stay healthy on the O-line. CJ's throwing the ball well, and the wide receivers are healthy. Yeah, absolutely, because they're talking about an elite passer and elite wide receivers. What we're seeing out of Marvin Harrison Jr. is special. We know what we're seeing out of CJ is special. I agree with Joel Klatt. I think we're going to be looking at Marvin Harrison Jr. not as a really good wide receiver in the NFL in a few years, but as the best wide receiver in the NFL. That's how good he is. He makes absolutely ridiculous catches. And it's funny, like the reason he wasn't ranked so high is because he wasn't known as a burner. Like, I don't know, maybe he went to a combine and didn't run real fast. Like his football speed is really good. They're talking about his miles per hour. He's quick. He's tough. His toughness is underrated. He catches everything. 6'4", 205. I mean, he is an absolute stud. Of all the great receivers that have been through here in a while, he's up there. And we might look at him as I'm not going to do any hyperbole right there, but when we're talking about the best receivers that come through Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be in that discussion of the best. I'm not going to say he's the best, but he'll be in the discussion. He's in the discussion. That's how good. That's what I'm seeing at him. He needs to finish the year out. I mean, he's not going to, as I said, he's already up to 60 catches, 969 yards, and 11 touchdowns on the season, 10 games in. Okay. So he's going to finish with a great year, but it's more than just the stats. It's the way he's doing it, some of the catches he's making. I mean, he has a highlight reel catch every game, sometimes twice a game. I love it. And again, people don't talk about his toughness enough. People don't talk about his speed enough. They talk about his height and about his ability to catch the ball, and rightfully so, but he's fast. He's fast. Maybe it's just he's, when he puts pads on, he's just as fast. I don't know what it is, why he was ranked as the 14th wide receiver in the country in his high school class. Okay. But he better win the Biletnikoff Award. Kid from Tennessee's got some good stats. It's going to be hard to overlook him. He's got some really good stats, but the very least, Marvin better be a finalist for the Biletnikoff Award, unlike the nonsense we saw last year. So, yeah, Lathan Ransom, can't say enough nice things about him. Brian on YouTube saying JSN is probably done. That's my guess. I do feel good that his dad told the Columbus Dispatch that he will be back at some point, though. That's his dad saying it. Why would your dad say that? So maybe he won't be back in 2 weeks, but we'll be back for the playoffs. Why not give it a try? Maybe pull a Jalen Waddle. Waddle played against the Buckeyes in the national championship game, caught a touchdown. How about do that? Come back for the playoffs. If you re-injure it, you re-injure it. But if he's willing to do it, it has to be his call, obviously. Bilal wants me to talk about the defense. How many rushing yards did Indiana get today? I mean, not many, right? I mean, Ohio State's defense, I just am very impressed with them. And Indiana's offense is not going to get confused with a good one, but still, they gave Michigan a lot more trouble than they gave Ohio State. Look that up. Let's check out a little box score action here. How many rushing yards did Ohio State give up today? Not many. Teams. I'm a stats guy. So Indiana did get 150 rushing yards. They only had 119 passing yards though. So total yards, Ohio State 662, Indiana 269. I love that. The national rankings are going to be even better for the offense and the defense for the Buckeyes. Again, total yards 662 for Ohio State, 269 for Indiana. Love it. You outgained them by almost 400 yards. Love it. David on YouTube. Am I optimistic about Miyan going forward? No, I would love to say I am. That's the one thing that has me like, man, that would have been a perfect game today if not for that. No, I'm not optimistic. I would love to say that I am. I'm pessimistic. I hope I'm wrong. We're going to hear from Patrick Murphy and Steve Hellwagon soon. They're getting out of postgame interviews very soon. We will hear from them. But no, I mean, I didn't look good, right? I mean, couldn't put any weight on it. He's a tough dude. You can tell he wanted to get off on his own power, then couldn't. Had to be carried off. Then had to be carted to the training room. Then when he came back out, foot in a boot and on crutches. Brad on YouTube, if the Buckeyes get to the Fiesta Bowl, high chance we get JSN, Trey, and Miyan back. I think Trey's going to be back next week. But JSN and Miyan, yeah, I think if my guess is Miyan, if they get to the playoffs, would be able to play. I'm just concerned about will he be ready for Michigan? And that's the exact type of game you need a guy like Miyan Williams because he just, as I said, he brings a physicality to this running game that they do not have without him. They can be effective in the running game without him, but he brings a physicality that they do not have without him. So that was disappointing. Mike with a little spoiler. Yeah, that's what I figured, though, Mike. Mike on YouTube saying Day said nothing on Miyan in the presser. Yeah. That's no surprise. 2-pager Larry. After every game, I immediately come to your live chat to hear sharp analysis. Thank you, Larry. I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys tuning into the show. I thank you for that comment. Thank you to all of you for tuning into the show. I'm not going anywhere right now. Just want to give you guys a preemptive thank you. Because just football going on, a lot going on. You guys are hanging out with me. I love hanging out with you guys, answering your questions, talking Buckeye football. So thank you for tuning in here to What We Learn Live. David on YouTube again. No Miyan against that team up north would hurt. Yeah, it sure would. There's no doubt it would. I still think they will win the game without him, but it just adds to the level of difficulty. They'll be all right, though. Brian, we will talk more about this next week, but they can't lose 2 games in a row. I think he would be the first one to agree with you. It's not like he'd be fired if he loses, but like, man, it'd be like, let's not even like, he's not going to. So it's all good. No, but I agree with your point, Brian. Ann Arbor Buckeye. Whoa, talk about behind enemy lines. Ann Arbor Buckeye on YouTube. Evan Pryor would have been a beast this year. He looked really good, and they definitely could have used him, especially now with all the injuries. He looked really good to me in the spring. You guys also saw what he did in the spring game. Even some of the other practices in the spring, he looked really good. Appreciate you, Brian. Brian is giving all of the nice comments here. Appreciate that. I agree with this. John, I touched on this a little bit, but I probably didn't focus on it enough. John on YouTube. Ohio State is a better team when they run between the center and the tackle area. When they run the stretch, they do not seem to be as effective as much. Amen to that. When they go north-south and they're quick hitting going north-south, power running, they're effective. When they do the stretch, it just doesn't seem to work. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But, yeah, thank you for bringing it up, John. I touched on that a little bit, but not enough. So I'm glad you brought that up. They need to do more of that hard hitting right up the middle, between the center and the guards and the tackles. Keep it between the tackles. I'm going to put mine in the hyperbaric chamber. Says Rick on YouTube. I'm sure they're going to do everything they can and then some. Brian, these young kids haven't lived through the Cooper misery. Don't read this. Brian, I'm sure some people on the podcast have lived through the Cooper misery and know exactly what you're talking about. Josh on Facebook. Big Ten West is terrible. Josh, we referred to that as the Big Ten JV on the show. Josh says the Big Ten West is terrible. Who do I think will make it to the championship? I mean, I would have said Illinois. Now I don't even know. They lost, right? They lost to Purdue. What a mess. What an absolute. Is Iowa going to make it again? I have no idea. I'll have to break that down after the show. Hilarious. The Big Ten JV. It's kind of like what I think with the NFL. NFL needs to do away with, if you have a losing record in the NFL and you win your division, I don't care. You should not be in the playoffs. I don't care that you won your division. That means your division is terrible and you got to play against those teams, all of them twice. So let's say the Tampa Bay Bucks this year go 8-9. They shouldn't be able to make the playoffs if they win their division. You should give it to whoever the next best team is that'd be left out, assuming there is a team that's better than 8-9, right? So, I wish they wouldn't even do that. This is why divisions in college football is just so stupid. You don't do it in basketball, do you? Can you imagine that in basketball? If they did that in the Big Ten, had two different divisions, what's the point? And you have the three best teams all in the same division. It's dumb. Okay. It's dumb. Now I will say this though. It does make the game more fun because if they didn't do divisions, it would just be a rematch of Ohio State and Michigan in the following week. So it's going to be kind of fun to beat Michigan and then go take care of whoever wins the JV. Gosh, all five. So all five of them are still in it. So you got Illinois, you got Purdue, all these terrible teams. Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin are all still in it. Amazing. Patrick Murphy live from the Horseshoe. All right. Welcome to the show, my friend. Now, I'm told to no surprise that Ryan Day did not say anything about Miyan Williams. What's your gut telling you? That did not look good at all, Patrick.
Well, he didn't give an update in terms of what injury it was, anything like that, as we expected. But he did say he didn't think it was something that was going to keep him out long term, that they were going to look at it, see how he feels tomorrow. Said the same about Travion Henderson. He said both backs the injuries are things that they think guys will be back soon. So Chip Trainum, too, he included him in that. So, look, Ryan has on more than one occasion said, I think we'll have him back next week, in reference to a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba, and he hasn't been. So I will take what Ryan said with an educated grain of salt. I don't think he usually comes straight out and lies to us. I just think sometimes he doesn't have all the information. Look, it didn't look good. They immediately took him to the locker room. I will say the fact that he came back out in a boot, wasn't really using the crutches from what I could see on the sideline, just, kind of had him, I think, probably for support. I imagine he was in pretty good pain there. Just without my medical degree in hand, I would say I think it's probably better than it initially looked.
That's great news. I didn't expect you to come in and be like, he's all good. Yeah, he's fine. He'll be running for 300 yards. That's fantastic. And for Ryan to even say, because even when he gave the credo, okay, we're done talking about injuries. When I asked him about mine a couple weeks ago, and he said, that being said, I will say the good news is it's not serious. That's all Buckeye fans wanted to hear. And for him to say that leads me to believe we will not see Miyan Williams next week against Maryland. I'm just spitballing here. But he won't be 100%. Not that he would be anyway. But we'll probably see him against Michigan in 2 weeks, just based on what you just said, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think you see how he's feeling, obviously. But I have to think they, did tests or extra, whatever they needed to do when he went into the locker room before halftime. And obviously he didn't come back out from halftime right away. So, Ryan obviously wasn't going to say, he's out for the year today. But I do think it was certainly a positive for sure.
All right, so let's talk about some of the other guys that didn't play. So DeJuan Jones didn't play. Josh Fryer got his first start. Yeah. I thought played really well. Bill Kurlick was talking about. We're talking Bill Kurlick about recruiting. Bill was saying he wanted to throw in, hey, Josh Fryer's a guy. Obviously, Bill's known for a long time through recruiting, and they thought he was focusing on him and thought Josh Fryer played really well. He did. He had a nice, really nice seal block on a long run. Let's start with that. Why did DeJuan Jones miss the game, and how did you feel like Josh Fryer played?
I don't know what DeJuan's dealing with. He was warming up. I mean, he came out for their initial warm-ups when they don't have their uniforms on, came out with the uniforms, was with the line group, was active. But then when they went to the 11v11, he did not take snaps. Day said afterwards that it was something that kind of went down to the last minute, and he just didn't feel completely ready to go. They're not going to force somebody who isn't feeling completely ready to go out there. And obviously you have a guy, like you said, in Josh Fryer, who I agree, I thought played really well for a first start. Remember, he tore his ACL in the offseason. This is a guy who missed spring and missed some of the summer program and all that because of that injury. So he's still getting back, as Ryan Day said this past week, kind of getting back to 100%, not injury-wise, but just, getting back to everything that comes with coming from an ACL injury. What I will say, I saw some people I think it was on Twitter saying, this is the way you've got to go with the offensive line. Look, it was Indiana. The weather wasn't as terrible as it was a week ago. When DeJuan Jones is healthy, I think DeJuan Jones is coming right back into that spot. But I think it's a good thing to know that you have Josh Fryer who can step in. I mean, I don't think DeJuan Jones has been an issue other than some occasional penalties. But, I think if you're talking about the issues on the offensive line, it's been the guards that have struggled the last couple of weeks more so than the tackles. So I think DeJuan's back in there once he's healthy. But I think it's a very positive sign in case he's not at some point or, you do need to change things that you have Josh Fryer.
Denzel Burke, you and I were texting about this.
Yeah.
You saw him warming up. He was in uniform. He was not going through 11-on-11, though, during warm-up, so probably precautionary. What do you think's going on with Denzel?
Yeah, Ryan kind of grouped Denzel, DeJuan Jones, and Chip Trainum all together in guys that, look, a lot of guys are banged up and dealing with stuff right now, but those were three guys who just didn't feel ready for whatever reason, whatever they're dealing with. So it doesn't sound like it's anything serious. I think with all three of those guys, if this were Michigan, they're on the field. That's the way I read what Ryan Day said. And, it's been so interesting this year with these injuries, and we talk about it every week. Guys just, guys are in, guys are out. And I do think some of it is just Ohio State playing that we're going to be careful game because we know we should win most of these games. And we know what's coming, down the road. And they obviously, had that with Penn State, and we'll have that with Michigan and anything after that. So, I think if this were the situation and you're, Maryland, just for an example, you probably get these guys out there and they're playing banged up a little bit. But with Ohio State, you recruit so well, you have so many guys, you're talented enough that you don't have to force guys out there every week that may be battling some injuries.
How about Cam Bab?
Yeah,
how cool
awesome.
is that?
Awesome stuff. He just came up. He and CJ Stroud were at the podium together. Steve will have the video up shortly. But they kind of did their press conference together, which was pretty cool. Two guys that have a lot of faith in God, and they talked about that a lot. And, I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but Cam wouldn't go away from the fact that he's put his trust in God and his beliefs, and that's helped him on this path to fighting back from 4 ACL tears and whatnot. I forgot that was his first career catch. I knew it was right away. It was his first career touchdown, but I looked it up and was like, oh, wow, that was his first catch. Really cool, really great dude, comes from a great family. I've talked to his family, actually. They were standing right outside the media room when we walked out. I don't know if people saw it, but he went over to the stands, actually, right back here where the family sit, and gave his parents a hug afterwards, after he got done being hugged by, I think, everyone else on the football team, including players and coaches. So awesome moment. The Bucknuts account tweeted, Ohio State got in a delay game, and like 6 people immediately responded with, it doesn't matter, it was for Cam Bab or something along those lines, which I completely agree with when I saw that. So, fantastic. And Ryan Day said they knew they were going to be able to get Cam into the game, assuming, the game went to script today, and it did. And it was just about, trying to figure it out. And you don't want to force something like that, but they got Marvin Harrison out, so they got him on the field. And then Indiana took a timeout, or there was an injury timeout. And CJ Stroud came up to him and said, what do you think about getting this one for Cam, getting him a touchdown? And he said, I think that's exactly what we should do. So obviously there are other things, and things have to go right for Cam to be open there. Certainly schemed up for Cam Bab. And I think as soon as people saw him get on the field and you're down by the end zone, they're going to at least try to get the ball to him. He's means so much to this program. Captain, the Block O winner. It was just cool to even see him walk out with the captains today in uniform. All season he's done it in street clothes, and it's unfortunate. So awesome to see him back. We'll see how much he can contribute to this team. Obviously, it's a really deep wide receiver room, but he's a talented player and one that I think defenses may overlook a little bit. If you need a guy who can step in and maybe kind of be a sneaky weapon out there, assuming he can continue to stay healthy.
Patrick, you are a sneaky weapon yourself. Thank you very much for your insights. Live from Ohio Stadium, we're going to get to Steve Hellwagon now. Patrick, you get back to work. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining the show.
Yep. Talk to you guys later.
He is Patrick Murphy. Now we welcome in Steve Hellwagon live from the Horseshoe. Steve, Patrick gave what I thought was a good update on Miyan Williams. That looked like it could have been serious. Apparently, Ryan Day told you guys that doesn't seem like it's long term. I doubt we're going to see him next week, but as long as we see him against Michigan, that's all that matters in my book. But what are you hearing? What do you think about Miyan?
Yeah, he didn't seem like it was the end of the season type thing. He was on crutches, but I mean, this guy is like indestructible, I guess. He leaves the stadium with his arm in a sling one week and then now on crutches this week. And I expect him to fully be out there next week. I mean, he's like the Energizer Bunny. He just takes a licking and keeps on ticking. They need he and Travion both, I think, to get this thing where it needs to be for the last game of the regular season, obviously. But, you got to like the way they attacked the mission today. It was Military Appreciation Day, and there was almost a military-like precision, I thought, to a lot of what we saw with Ohio State today. They didn't wait around until the 7th possession like they did last week to finally put some points on the board. They did it on the 2nd possession this week, and then they just kept right on going. It was 21-0 at the end of the first quarter, 28-7 at halftime, and then had the 2 touchdowns very quickly to start the second half, and the game was pretty much over at that point. So, I'm very encouraged by a lot of what I saw here. Is it troubling that there are still more injury issues with this team? Yes, very troubling, because you want to be at full strength when the season's biggest games are coming up in the next 3 weeks, essentially. I figured they're going to take care of business at Maryland one way or the other. I know Maryland is up or behind Penn State, I think 14-0. It looked like they're on television to start the game. So that doesn't really surprise me, playing at Penn State. But playing back at home next week, they're going to be a much better team and much more difficult team for Ohio State to go in there and take care of business. So, C.J. Stroud was back on top of his game today. The rumors of his demise were greatly exaggerated, and he didn't even have to run the ball a whole lot to do it. Threw for 297 yards and 5 touchdowns. And, of course, the feel-good moment of the season, the touchdown to Cam Bab, who's dealt with 4 different ACL injuries. And as Coach said, 4 different rehabs from the ACL. Just been a terrible go for him in his time at Ohio State. And for him to have that type of a moment this deep in this season, just outstanding for him.
Speaking of outstanding, you're right. I mean, Cam Bab, we've been talking about that a lot. We can't talk about it enough. So happy for Cam Bab and his family. I mean, you can just see how his teammates reacted to that. That tells you everything you need to know. Him being named captain told you everything you need to know already, but that was just so cool. How about Xavier Johnson too, Steve? I mean, Xavier Johnson has stepped up. I mean, he made a huge play in the opener against Notre Dame. He's been all over special teams. He can run the football. He can catch the football. A couple of huge plays today. Love Xavier Johnson, man. Every time we're out of practice these last 4 years, when he really wasn't getting much playing time, he was always making plays when we were out there. And now he's doing it on the field. Love that for Xavier Johnson, a fifth-year senior, former walk-on.
Yeah, he's like the Swiss Army knife for this team. He can do a little bit of everything, and he played a little bit of wide receiver and a little bit of running back here today against Indiana. It came up so big. As Coach said, the touchdown, I believe that he had, they blocked it perfectly. He made a couple guys miss early Then he juked number 23 going down the right sideline, cut it back against the grain, picked up a block 40, 50 yards downfield from Marvin Harrison Jr., knocked that guy on his can, and then he outraced everybody else to the end zone. What a play. Maybe the play of the year so far. I don't know. But that's got to be one of the plays of the day, I would think. But, just a great individual effort by him and a great team effort by everybody who was in on that play to get him into the end zone. That was 11 guys selling out. That's what it looks like when they're playing their best football. That's what it looks like right there. You saw it. And, again, I think you got to be excited to see that type of a play from this team, no question.
Steve, we've seen a hell of a lot of great wide receivers come through Ohio State. Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, he's at least going to be in the discussion of the best that we've seen come through here. I mean, it's staggering some of the catches he makes and just what a complete wide receiver he is. I think coming in, people were like, well, he's a big guy, but maybe like a 4.5 guy. No, he's faster than what the recruiting, rankings had him as. He catches everything. I love everything about it. He's tougher than I think people, give him credit for. Not that people say he's not tough, but like he's a tough dude. I mean, he's in the discussion. I don't say that lightly because Ohio State is like wide receiver U basically, despite some years where they didn't even throw the ball that well. But he's going to be in the discussion. That's how great he is. I hope he wins the Biletnikoff.
Yeah, if somebody comes out of nowhere and wins the Biletnikoff over him, then bully for them. They've had a great year because this guy's having one of the best years of any Ohio State wide receiver that I can recall. And to me, I was amazed early in the game. He made a great adjustment coming down the left sideline, and he's turned like this, and he had to adjust his body like that to make that catch from C.J. Stroud on that pass down the field. Then I think he had the career longest touchdown that he's ever had, 58 yards in this game. And that says a lot, a guy that all he does is catch touchdowns, but 58-yarder got behind the defense. And how do you let that guy get behind you? I don't know what they were thinking on that one, but he got 5 yards behind the defense and made him pay for it. And Stroud hit him with a great ball at the 10-yard line, and he took it in the rest of the way and did the rest. So blocks for people, a possession receiver, big play receiver, you name it, he can do it. He already had, I think, 5 catches for 111 at halftime. And I think
finished with 7 for 135 and a touchdown. Now has 60 receptions for 969 yards and 11 touchdowns on the season. Now, the kid from Tennessee has better stats. Okay, the kid from Tennessee, they'll probably look at that. The kid from Tennessee might win it, but like Marvin better at least be a finalist, damn it. And Tommy Eichenberg better at least be a finalist for the Buckeyes. And C.J. Stroud better win the Heisman. That's what I want. That's what I want for Christmas, Steve. Let's get you out of here. We have a question from I'll answer this one. Steven, is Emeka Egbuka hurt? No, I don't think he's hurt, is he? Emeka Egbuka's not hurt, is he?
Well, he left. He may have come out of the game, and Tim May asked Ryan Day about it, that maybe it was a helmet-to-helmet or a little clink, that maybe there could have been an issue with him, maybe a concussion, but we don't know.
Oh, okay.
And, so we'll see. I'm not going to surmise because I didn't see it. I didn't recall him playing a whole lot there in the second half, so I'm not sure what became of that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see this week and see what his availability is for next week. But it's kind of a funny story. They talked about for this game how DeJuan Jones and Denzel Burke, and there may have been somebody else, Travion Henderson, obviously. DeJuan Jones warmed up and Denzel Burke was in uniform, but they decided that they weren't able to play. And I just kind of chuckled because, I think if anybody was on the fence whether they were going to be able to play or not today, they're playing Indiana. So you could sit this one out. But I just kind of joke that in a couple of weeks when they're playing Michigan, you're going to have to hold people off the field with, whatever it is, you're going to need weapons to keep people from getting off the field playing in that big Michigan game in a couple weeks. So, get everybody healed up and rested up now. I had somebody tweeted me at halftime, said, ask Coach Day why Miyan Williams is still in the game. In the second quarter, it's 28-7, and he already had over 100 yards at that point. He got hurt. A guy rolled up on his ankle. His right ankle appeared and injured him. Wanted to know why he was still in the game in the second quarter. And I just tweeted the guy back and said, he can't win, talking about Coach Day, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. It didn't get enough work to work out all the kinks. All that dumb bullshit that we hear every week. And, I don't know. I'm tired of it. All the second guessing and everybody knows what the problem is. Sure you do, So the guys are doing the best they can to get through the season, the absolute best that they can, and win every game and do what's best for the group. And I don't worry one bit about that. So, I'm not going to give any of that any kind of credence.
Let's get you out of here on this. Brutus B. Buckeye has a question for Steve Hellwagon. Steve, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well did Ohio State's offensive line play today?
1 to 10. They had almost 600 yards offense here. Let's see, 340 rushing, 322 passing. That's, in my math, 662 yards. That's got to be one of the top 5 or 10 games all time in yardage. I'm going to say scale of 1 to 10. It was probably about a 9, maybe 8 or a 9. There were a couple short yardage situations. I mean, they gave the ball to Mitch Rossi on 4th and 1. Okay, whatever. So
it didn't work well. No.
Yeah, I don't know that. They had a couple short yardage plays they didn't convert. Let's just leave it at that. But I would say 8.5. 8.5. I would say.
Yeah, 8.5, 9. Yeah, I agree with you. I'd give it a 9. I liked what I saw of Josh Fryer in the offensive line overall. Always like what I see out of Steve Hellwagon. All right, get back to work, my friend. Thank you, Steve Hellwagon, for your knowledge. Appreciate it, man.
Guys. Be good.
All right, take care. Steve Hellwagon live from the Horseshoe. Appreciate Steve joining us. All right, well, let's wrap it up. We've heard from the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurlick. We've heard from Patrick Murphy and Steve Hellwagon. If you're just now tuning in or tuned in late, you can rewatch the entire show. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. I am Dave Biddle. We'll be with you Monday for Bucknuts Morning 5, Monday through Friday. Appreciate you guys joining me here for Bucknuts What We Learned Live following Ohio State's demolition over Indiana, and great news about Miyan Williams. I was really worried about that. So Ohio State crushes Indiana 56-14, and sounds like it's not that serious with Miyan. So that is really, really, really good news if that's true. So love where this team is at. We are 14 days away, maybe less, 13 days and change away from the game. Michigan right now leading Nebraska 14-0 midway through the second quarter against Michigan. Not looking that impressive. I mean, they don't look bad, but again, Nebraska. I can't wait. I think Ohio State's going to take care of business and then some in 2 weeks. I cannot wait. Cannot thank you guys enough for joining me on the show. Really appreciate all of you for tuning in. Thanks again to the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurlick. Thank you to Patrick Murphy and Steve Hellwagon for their reports live from Ohio Stadium. And thanks, of course, to all of you. Hope everyone has a great rest of your evening and a great rest of your weekend. Thanks again. Go Bucks.